Hi, welcome back again for another new video. This time we have a new dungeon crawler with a fresh theme that is hitting our table, and it's the Ghosts Betwixt. This is a game about dungeon crawling in a new theme, in a new scene. This is a game that has a very, I would say, interesting approach to the dungeon crawling theme and very different, and I really like it for all the new ideas and fresh ideas it brings on the table. So the story behind this game: this is a cooperative dungeon crawler where a family is trying to get back into the hall of horrors, the world of horrors. This is let's say, an attraction of horror that it's on one remote area of the city, and various different and bizarre things are happening on these premises. It is a haunted house. It has a lot of bad rumor around it and a lot of, I would say, shady and dodgy characters in it. So one family member has been taken inside, and the father, the brother, the sister and the mother are trying to get into the house and trying to find out what's happened and get their family member back. So we have four family members getting into the haunted house, let's say, and they're trying to get to the bottom of this and get their family member back. Now, this game has all the typical things that you would expect in a dungeon crawler. So it has experience, it has level up, it has a narrative progressive story throughout 6 missions that they have a lot of different things going on. They have exploration, you have a lot of different things going on, you have protective gear, you have weapons, you have abilities, but all these typically were found on a fantasy theme. In this game, it has the humorous and unique art that goes with it. So instead of having swords and mages and maces and I don't know, crossbows, you have slingshots and you have a racket for melee weapon and stuff like that, which are things that they just managed to get on their way to the haunted house from their house in order to equip themselves as better as possible before diving into the haunted house to get their family member back. So the game has a lot of humor, it has a lot of cartoonish art and approach to it, which I really like, but it also has some very interesting mechanisms like the map tokens and the fate tokens that when you explore the map, you draw one map token to add to your path, and then you also have together for each doorway 3 fate tokens for which you can find doorways, you can find treasure chests, you can find spawn token monsters and traps and vending machines and different things that they fit the theme very well, but also they give a unique feeling and unique atmosphere to the game. So imagine a typical dungeon crawler with lots of cool ideas and nice mechanisms on a very fresh and unique theme, which I really like and gives tremendous different, I would say, aesthetics to the game, but also different things to follow and unravel. So join me at the table, I'll show you the basic rules of the game, I'll show you how the game plays, and I will explain all the details, and then we'll come back at the end of this video for a final wrap-up about my first sessions from this nice little gem. Hi, welcome to Ghosts Betwixt. This is a brand new game that recently hit my table, and it's a game about a dungeon crawling themed game with a twist and a different theme. I really like the approach of this game in terms of story, in terms of art, in terms of the mechanics that it's using. So let's dive into describing the main concepts of the game and showing you a bit about how the game plays. So let's get into the story first of all. So after an incident over the weekend, Pleasant Springs Words of Terror haunted house was investigated Monday for animal cruelty. Pleasant Springs Animal Cruelty Task Force investigator James D. Richards followed up by a complaint of a rotten smelling odor and a lifelike squirrel corpse found in the swamp room of Pleasant Springs' oldest Halloween attraction, Words of Terror haunted house located at 1320 Avery Road. Gary Papa Bennett, owner of the haunted house, said the squirrel corpse and blood were artificial. It was just Words of Terror putting a scare in your underwear, Bennett said, familiar to many as the haunted house slogan. The Bennetts have previously been investigated for neglect, unsafe work conditions and child labor laws. They have faced multiple lawsuits by people who have been injured while traveling through their property of haunted attractions. They have never been convicted of any of these charges, although. So what is Worlds of Terror? This is a haunted house attraction that is known for I would say a lot of bad rumors around the place and the premises. So a lot of funny things are going on there. So how this is linked with our story? So let's find out right away. October 1993, hole 13, Pleasant Springs Disc Golf Course. A preteen boy extends a drive too far right into the watches of the disc sail over a rusted metal fence, right into the adjacent farmhouse backyard. Well, at least you threw it far, reacts the other boy in the wheelchair. Richie grinces and jogs over towards the property while his brother Maddox follows. Richie leaps halfway up the chain link fence and crunches down into the dead grass of the opposite side. As the young boy strides forward through the dead leaves and searches for his purple candy plastic disc, he freezes. The opening creak and closing crash of an old screen door greets him. "You're on private property, son," growls an approaching disabled man and with a white stained tank top. "Oh, sorry sir, just getting my disc real quick and I'll be," Richie replies. "On your way?" the man interrupts. "Son, the only way you're headed is where I tell ya. Now come on, I've been expecting you," he says while lunging over for the boy. Maddox desperately watches at his brother as he's hurried inside the farmhouse back door, but before any word escapes from his mouth, he wisely catches them, realizing he remains undetected. Maddox returns to the gravel road and makes the nearly 3-mile trip home as fast as his arms will allow. The front door bursts open. "Mom, Dad," he gasps, covered head to toe in sweat. Maddox's father Bill, mother Joan and sister Evelyn gather around the cluttered kitchen island as the panting boy exhaustingly explains what happened. "Wait, what?" Bill shouts. "Richie was taken inside that weird Bennett family house." "Are you sure?" "Yeah, through the garage, where the sign says World of Terror," Maddox responds. Bill sprints to the phone, briefly gets tangled in the cord and dials the police. No answer. He calls again and again. He's met with just ringing. He slams the phone back on the receiver. "Tell me, this is another old one of your brother's jokes?" Maddox communicates plenty through the worry of his face. John scoops up the keys to the family van. "You kids stay here, we'll be right back with Richie." "No way," Evelyn tells. "I'm coming too." "Likewise," Maddox responds. "Absolutely not," Bill yells. "It's too dangerous." "Exactly, too dangerous for just two of you. Richie is our brother. We are going," Evelyn demands. "Everyone grab what you can find," John says, "and meet me at the van in 2 minutes." So for the next steps, people find starting equipment, which is a very nice and thematic experience. So this is the starting equipment that you have. You have 120 seconds to spend while scavenging in the house for the following base equipment, which is from the equipment deck, the brown deck. We're going to explain all the components right away. So there's a quick find from cards 01 to 05, and you have 15 seconds each. Then you have stored away cards 6 to 9, 30 seconds each, and a maximum of 2 cards from this slot. Candy drawer, cards 10 and 11, 30 seconds each. From the fridge, milk, 69 to 70, 5 seconds each, and orange juice, 73 to 74, 10 seconds each. Then take the following 2 cards, and on the way out of the door, choose one of the 4 cards, 14 to 17. You place any unchosen base equipment, starting cards, back into the brown equipment deck, which is this one, as I've showed you before, and you shuffle it. So you create again the equipment deck shuffled, and you start up the family van and begin mission 1 by turning into page 1. So this is a nice way to get your cards and your starting equipment, assign it to your 4 family members. Every game includes all 4 of those family members. So we start with the mission 1, which I'm going to go through in a bit. So I'm reading through the mission guide, which is something that you should go on a mission by mission basis, but you also have the quick play guide, which explains all the rules, and then you have a very detailed rules reference for all your additional details for each of the phases and the rules of the game. So let's start with mission 1, Bennett's farmhouse, first floor. The family van speeds across gravel roads towards the once beloved haunted Halloween attraction. With the monstrous farmhouse in view, the vehicle's headlights flick off. The tires slow to a crawl and each of the 4 doors carefully opens. Joel, Bill, Evelyn and Maddox sneak past the garage doors, shoddily labeled Words of Terror, and run to the east wing of the house. Evelyn notices a small open window leading inside. They exchange nods and begin helping one another inside with one thing in mind, finding Richie. So the family is putting their efforts together, going into the house, trying to get Richie back. So here's the mission setup. So as this is a similar, or I would say general setup that most of the missions follow, with some additional exceptions, but this is a good idea, the first mission, to understand how the game plays. So you shuffle the specific map tokens indicated by the mission setup. So for this one it will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. So I have all those tokens in a pile, handpicked from all the map tokens that you have. A and B indicates the sides, the facing of the tiles, as each, as you would see, each of those tiles has an A and a B side. So this is 2A, or it could be 2B, and the same goes for all the tiles. In terms of map tokens, it doesn't matter, because once you pull this map token out of the pile, you know which phase you're going to use based on the mission setup, so you can ignore it for the purposes of making this pile. So you gather all these tokens as indicated here in order to prepare and make the map token pile. Specifically for this mission, you also get specific fate tokens. We'll see how the fate tokens interact with the map tokens as you explore further into the house in this dungeon crawling game. So, so how you start? You take first of all the starting tile, which is depicted here. This is where the family came into the house. Starting map tile 1A, there you have it. So you add a door to both doorways. So you see this is a door on a stand base. It has also the fate token at the back, because you're going to draw more tokens. So one door here and one door there. Then you place the family members on the starting map tile, as you can see. You place a stack of 7 map tokens and stack of 21 fate tokens next to the door. And you read objective 1. You place the remaining objective cards nearby and you begin exploring phase. There is an end of round event where you roll a d6 and when you get a 1 you get a trembling, and a random family member loses 1 health point or 1 focus point. How to win: you need to complete all the objectives on the card, and how you lose: all family members are KO'd. You also have specific selection of shuffle the fate tokens in the pile. You have door tokens, 5 of those. You have the locked door token, which is actually the purpose of this objective of this mission, you're going to see in a sec. You have 3 random treasure tokens. There are always a number, there's always a pile of 10 numbered treasure tokens. For this mission, we're instructed to just randomly select 3, which we're going to add on the pile together with the rest of the fate tokens. And be aware that 1 to 10 gives different type of treasures, and you can consult the mission end to find information about which each numbered treasure token gives you, awards you. Then you have, you see they're randomly drawn. You have the ambush token, which is this one. You have a surprise event tokens, which also are linked with what the mission indicates that is going to happen when you draw this. You have monster tokens, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you have trap tokens, rat traps, 2 of those, and bird traps, 2 of those as well. So for this specific mission, we take our map tokens as indicated in the mission setup guide. We shuffle them. We just select number 4, which is the one that we're going to explore first, as indicated by again the mission guide. We shuffle all the rest to create a pile, and we put number 4 on top. So we know that the first one to explore will be map tile number 4, and we'll put it nearby. And we also put we take all these fate tokens as indicated together with the 3 randomly drawn treasure tokens, we shuffle them and we create a pile for the fate tokens as well. We always keep the fate tokens close to the map tokens, and we may have to split them if we have a fork situation. We're going to explain later on. For the moment, this is how we start the game. This is the objective for the first mission. Objective 1, find the door to the basement. So during drawing phase, if you draw a locked door token, that's the first step that we need to do. Then we place a locked door token inside the plastic base, and during the spawning phase in the map tile for which it was drawn, you place this locked door in the middle of a wall without a doorway. Basically, we have identified a hidden passage with a locked door to the basement. Then we complete the spawning phase or fighting phase if applicable, and if complete, then we have to flip it to follow the instructions. Before going in more details, you can see that in this, again, mission guide, you have in the first mission, besides the setup on how to start the game, you have the list of monsters. You spawn these monsters when the master tokens are drawn during the drawing phase. So if I drawn master token 2, I have to spawn a guard dog and Bennett Lucky, respectively. If I drawn, for example, master token 4 from the fate token pile, I have to spawn 3 rabbit ferrets, and so on. So this is specific to the mission always. Also the treasures. We take the number treasure associated with the treasure token during the drawing phase. So depending on the number, because you see we drawn from 1 to 10, which were the 10 different types, we had to randomly select 3 and put them in. So depending on what we will reveal, we know what the treasure we're going to get. And this is a story. So this is a story that you have. I'm not going to read it now. You have what happens when you have the mission complete. You have the next steps to go to the next mission. And there is a list of surprise events. So depending on the die roll and the surprise events, various things can happen. You can also do investigation in the tiles to find different things, and depending on what you investigate, these are the things you may dig, and then you proceed to the second mission respectively. So I'm going to first of all familiarize yourselves with the basic concepts of the game. Of course, this is going to be a summary of all the rules, and to show you a bit of everything. So we have the 4 family members, the father, the mother, and the 2 kids, that they have rushed into the haunted house to try to get their brother and their kid respectively out there safe. So this is our objective, this is our starting tile. These are our standees for the family members, which they have color bases matching their player color dashboards. They start from this tile as indicated in the first mission setup. I think, if I'm not mistaken, this is a 6 missions campaign that you can go through, and of course you can replay them. These are the different decks of the game. We have first of all the master deck, which has the various masters, and we're going to go through more details to explain the anatomy of each of those cards, just to give you some basic understanding. I have selected already the master cards indicated from the mission, and I have set them aside because we're going to use them for sure, and have placed respective standees with their plastic bases there because they're going to come as enemy monsters into play, or enemies, etc. We have the dice of the game, we have the different piles of cards, the equipment deck, out of which are the starting equipment as indicated in the process that I'm going to show you once we start the game, because we grab some of those and assign it to our family members. We have the green equipment deck, the blue items deck, the drop deck, which is actually once you defeat some of the monsters, they drop some equipment as a loot and you can pick it up. And these are specific decks with talents for each of the family members. Essentially this indicates the leveling up experiencing and the additional abilities unlocked for each of the family members, which is a cool mechanism of the game. And showing how you progress your character as well, with the various experience that you're gaining through the campaign. But they all start with a specific talent. For example, Bill is overprotective, so he starts with this card. Usually you need to spend focus points. Speaking of the 2 resources of the game, we have the hit points, which are these ones. When you take damage, you remove those. your health points. Once you're 0, you're KO'd. The same goes for the monsters. And you have the focus points, which are used for specific powering specific abilities. Now, instead of using those tokens, since I have the deluxe edition, I have these nice plastic dials, cardboard dials, which indicate on this side the health points. So Bill starts with 8, and on this side the focus points. So Bill starts with 4. And they're much more easy to handle than tokens, so I really prefer them. John starts with 7 and 6 respectively, Maddox starts with 6 and 5, and Aveline starts with 5 and 5 as indicated in the rulebook. Now, the next thing that we're going to do, and it will make more sense once we demonstrate combat, is each monster that will come will have an attack priority. So they will have a very specific, I would say, target. So their target may change throughout the course of the game. So the game starts with 4 target tokens. They all have this at the back. 4 for each of the family members. So 4 for each of the family members. We can, what we do is usually we flip them face down and we shuffle them and create a pile for when we need to pull either assigning a new target or retargeting, which is a mechanism of the game, also real cool. So, so you take them and shuffle them, but if you have the deluxe edition, of course, you have this pouch, which is really nice. So I can take them and put them all in. And when I need to determine a target for a monster, I will randomly draw from this bag, respectively. So I put them all in, 4 by 4, shuffle them, and create the target pool, respectively. Oh, 2 more decks I forgot to mention. We have the Beastly and the Humanish decks. When the monsters appear and spawn, they're given, depending if they are human or beast nature, they are given respective weapons for which they have abilities and additional dice that they are added to their profile that they have already there. In addition, each family member takes 1 play rate, which describes all the stages that we're going to come back in a sec. And there is some reminders at the back with how the hit dice and the damage die and the defense dice work. Really nice and very handy. But also, we're going to get, first of all, the initial equipment and assign it to our 4 family members before we start diving into the main course of the game. So as I mentioned, following the instructions in the mission guide, we start with the starting equipment. So basically this corresponds to the things that the family is picking up on their way out. They have specific 120 seconds to go through the scavenging phase. So we have various items, weapons, ammo, different things as described in this first starting equipment card. So I'm just going to go ahead and assign throughout my decision choice some of those cards already to the family members. So here's how I handed over the equipment. Bill over there got the Untrust tennis racket. It's a one-handed melee weapon, as you can see from this icon over there. It has this profile. It has some special abilities that they are activated if during the die roll we have the diamonds. You can do stumble one or disarmed one, etc. In the base, it's a base equipment indicated at the bottom of the card, as you can see. And it provides a green die. Together with his light green, he'll have a green and a light green for attacking purposes. Then I gave this her little horsey putter to John. Again, it's a melee weapon, two-handed, so she cannot carry a second weapon equipped. There are 2 slots for the 2 hands, as you can see, 1 and 1, 2. For this case, since she's carrying this little horsey putter, it's a 2-hand weapon, so she cannot equip another weapon at the same time. Then for Maddox, I gave him this ranged weapon. It's a 2-handed ranged weapon, this tooting water pistol. who uses liquid as an ammo. It provides a light blue weapon. I have also when I give the range weapons to someone, need to have equipped ammo. So it has this is ammo liquid. I took the economy liquid and nitrogen, which also provides this environmental damage as well. So to match the pistol. And on the equipped item, I gave him some milk, where he can roll a light orange die and gain health point to self or other adjacent family members from this card. So it's a nice equipped item to have. Then for Aveline, she got again a two-handed range weapon, a crude slingshot, which uses projectiles. She can also do additional damage and blind with the special diamond icon rolled. For ammo, I had two options. I had the pebbles, which is ammo for projectiles. You just need to have a specific type of this ammo for having a ranged weapon. I could either give here the pebbles or the dart syringes, doesn't matter. It doesn't have any additional abilities, that's what I mean. So this additional ammo doesn't do anything to any family member. I just gave it to John for the purpose of carrying it still. She doesn't use it though for her weapon, which is a melee two-handed. And I also gave her some orange juice from the fridge, where she rolls a dark yellow and gain focus point to self or adjacent family members. So one has the health points and one has the focus points, let's say, recharge from those two drinks. I also gave to each of those an accessory, a pack of fruity gum for Aveline, respectively, and a pack of cinnamon gum to Maddox, where at the start of the mission you place 3 charge tokens on this card. At any time you may use one to gain a bonus light green die. So speaking about charge tokens, same goes for this one. It just essentially just the times that you can use this equipment, so that's what the charge tokens do. So let's put 3 and 3 on those 2 pack of gums. So let's do that. 3 charges for 1 pack of gum. It will be different type of material. It provides a light green die here, and it provides a teal die here. The pack of fruity gum, respectively. So essentially shows the types of uses this can have. Then I take the rest of the cards, and this is what I do once I have sorted out the equipment that they are not being used. They all are starting equipment as indicated, and they come from the brown deck. So I take the deck, shuffle it, set it aside. You may find different equipment throughout the course of the game. And I have 2 more blue items that I didn't choose from the consumables. They go into the blue items deck and set them aside as well. Now, for this mission, as you can see, I start from a very, very specific tile, and I will expand from there, exploring the mansion of the World of Terrors. But keep in mind that for future missions, just not spoiling anything, you could have a very, very extended network of rooms that you already have explored, and you have to navigate through those. So just to show you something different. So again, we have our equipment, we have our stats, we have our icons. Keep in mind that these are 2 tokens, one for a light green and one for a teal die, that they are for offensive and defensive postures, that they can give bonus dice if I'm prepared, and I can use them in the next attack mission action that I will take. I will explain those later. And the last thing that everyone does, takes again a play rate, where it describes the course of the game. So the game goes throughout a various amount of rounds, depending on the objective that we want to achieve. We go through these rounds one by one until we achieve the victory or the lost conditions, as I explained before. First we have the exploring phase. During the exploring phase we do the investigation, which is optional, and we initiate the drawing phase. Then we move to the drawing phase, where we remove the door, we draw a map token and place map tile and draw fate tokens that I'm going to show in detail. If we have a fork in the road, then you have to split our map and fate tokens in 2 piles in a 3-to-1 ratio. 3 fate tokens to 1 map token. We place doors, we move map and fate tokens respectively, and then we move to the spawning phase, where resolve fate tokens, first drawn to last drawn in the order that we took them out. And then we move to the fighting phase. If applicable, we do the pre-fighting phase actions for all family members. We activate the family member, then we activate the monster group, and then we repeat until all family members and all active masters groups have been activated. And we end the round event, repeat until all masters are defeated, and after fighting phase we draw cards from the drop deck. It's essentially the loot that the masters leave behind, resolve treasure tokens, gain XP and Bennett bucks, and that's it. All masters defeated, we start a new exploring phase. Very, very simple. And we also have a reminder at the back. During the fighting phase, each family member gets 2 actions. They may not perform same action twice. They can move according to the speed. Speaking of speed, you see, Bill, for example, have a speed of 5, Evelyn have a speed of 6, John has a speed of 5. That means how many squares they can move around. They can also move diagonally. I'm going to explain those later in a bit. Then you can have attack, ranged, or melee if you're adjacent. Melee happens from one adjacent square to an adjacent square, ranged according to the range, of course, of the attack. You see range 4 for Bill, range 5 for John, etc. If they're carrying a ranged weapon, that is. You can have offensive stance, where it could be as a second action only, or defensive stance as a second action only, where you move this up, essentially charging it so that you can gain additional light green or teal bonuses and maybe potentially have a hit there for the light green track. Then you can use an item, equipped item, as an action. Ready an equipment, rearrange cards on dashboard, trade with family member up to 2 equipment or items. So all these are options for the 2 actions you can take. And here are the dice, explanation of the dice. We have different colors dice so that they are referred to as LG for the light green, G for the green, LB for the light blue, and B for the blue, etc. So these are the hit dice from weaker to stronger. Then you have the damage die, again from weaker to stronger, light yellow, light orange, and dark orange, inflicting more damage from left to right. We have the defensive die, which is a white die, a tan die, and a brown die. You see, for example, Bill rolls without adding any additional die, just from his dashboard, a brown die, where John, because he can do better defense than John, who has a teal one, or Evelyn, who is weak on defense, and she just rolls for a defense a white die. And again, you can see the results. You can have different facing, like this star means a success. This means half a success, which does nothing if it's on its own, but if you have 2 of those, then that's a whole success that you can inflict. If you have the diamonds, that's a weapon effect. You can activate special abilities from the weapon cards. This is a shield, this is a 1/4 shield. Retarget when you draw another target token from there for the master group, and evade, which cancels respectively. So there you have it. This is a nice handy reminder of all the icons over there. And now we have explained the basic things that we see on the game. So let's move into explaining the course of the game. And of course go through the anatomy of the cards side by side so that this makes more sense. So I'm going to cover the quick play guide first, just to give you an idea of how you can quickly set up the game for the first mission. Again, this is a cooperative dungeon crawler spanning several story missions and side missions. Players take the roles of 4 family members, reflected and reported as FMs from now on, searching for their mission son, brother Richie. And here's all the different type of materials that you find inside the game. Now, to set up your first game, you go through this specific sequence as we have seen. We've seen how to set up mission 1, and we have seen also how to organize the starting health point, focus point, starting talent, respective LGNT tokens, and organize the different conditions and target tokens. Okay, so that's from the starting point. You see also that there are some different conditions, either positive or negative. These are here. you can gain different conditions throughout the course of the game that they do different things, and this is another nice mechanic of the game. These are the good conditions, and you can have other you know, bleeding or disarmed or lightheaded, etc., or blind, different negative conditions that you also gain from different effects in the game. There is always a very handy, in both rulebooks, list of all the conditions, what they do, for the harmful conditions, which are black, or the helpful conditions, which are green, or some other abilities. So this is like a nice summary at the back of the rulebook. So, having set up mission 1, we're ready to start with the 4 phases of the game. So this, as you can see, this quick guide does a very good job in just giving you the basics of the game so that you can start playing right away and you learn the game immediately from the first mission. So, in a nutshell, we have 4 phases. Gameplay takes place over 4 phases: the exploring phase, the drawing phase, the spawning phase, and the fighting phase. Mission 1 begins with the exploring phase, which is 1. The exploring phase sees the family members moving forward towards their next destination to end the current exploring phase and advance to the drawing phase. We arrange the family members with at least one family member adjacent to one of the doors, either this one or that one. And to do that, we move them next to the door, and then we remove the door to start with the exploring phase. You can also have investigations. Investigations are done during the exploring phase. Family member may explore a map tile to find equipment, helpful conditions, money, or something not quite as helpful, but sometimes it progresses the story. So we'll explain how investigation works. We use FPs, focus points, to do investigations. And you can always see what you can find throughout the investigations from the mission guide, depending on the mission. So for example, you see, at the back of the first mission, there is a full list of investigations, so depending on what you do, on which tiles you are and what you investigate, there are different things that you can do depending on the die roll that you can find, and the mission guide describes this in detail. Then, after we moved with and finished with the exploring phase, we move to the drawing phase. The drawing phase sees players draw map tokens from here, and fate tokens, which represent the rooms, challenges, and rewards that lie ahead. So, for example, for the first drawing phase, you draw a map token and place the respective map indicated. We know that for this one, this is going to be room tile number 4, because this is how the mission was set up. Okay, so we draw the top map token. So let me move a bit things around. And we know that we have moved to the exploring phase, since they would have all moved there to do the exploring. Okay, they may have done some investigation before to see if they find something, but let's keep that for the moment. And then for the drawing phase, they will draw the top map token from this map pile. Actually, they're going to take the one from the bottom, or depending on what the story says. The normal rule is that we draw the one from the top of the map pile. So this would be number 4. So in this case, we will pick up number 4 tile, 4A, according to the mission, and decide if we're going to place it from this side or from that side. Let's say, for the benefit of this, we're going to remove the door, of course, and join doorway with doorway, like that. We're going to remove the door. And then what we're going to do is we're going to see if we're going to add, for this map token that we drew, we need to add 3 fate tokens, and we have to resolve them one after the other. And we're going to move this fate token pile and map token pile next to the next door. Keep in mind that if you have a fork, which we're going to explain later on, you may have to split those in 2 piles on a 3:1 ratio, so that you can expand towards 2 sides respectively. I'm going to cover them in a bit more details, those phases, but just for the moment to show you in a nutshell how this works, we drew map token number 4, and then in turn of with the turn that we took them, we have those 3 tokens. That means that first of all, they have to spawn the master group 3, and I remind you, according to the mission guide, the master token 3 is a spitting silverfish, 2 of those. So the way we spawn monsters is we use 1d6 and 1d8, or 1d6 and 1d6. So for this case it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so it's 2 d6s, because all the tiles are either 6 by 8 or 6 by 6 like this square. So I'm going to roll 1 for this side, so it's 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1 for this side. So 5 by 5, that means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here is where the group will spawn. The group is in this case 2 of those spitting silverfish. Again, I'm going to explain how spawning works. Okay. Facing is also important in this game, because you can have a bonus if you attack a monster from the back with a blind side bonus, which again we're going to explain. But let's, for the purpose of what I'm going to do for the purpose of seeing this better, is I'm going to rotate everything like that for the moment, so that we can have a better visibility on the tokens. And this is how we got these tiles. Also, this is a bear trap that is going to spawn with the same way. So let's spawn it horizontally, 3, vertically 1. So 3, 1, 2, 3 by 1. That means that this spawns here. Of course, you can go around it, go above it, but if you stumble into it because someone pushes you, then it's activated. This is not spawned, this is left beside, and it can be retrieved afterwards. So this is also what we need to do, is we need to get the pile of fate tokens and map tokens here, so that they can continue splitting. We don't have a fork here because we know it's only one direction, because only one exit room. So let's continue with explaining the phases of the game. So after we have the draw fate tokens, we draw 3 fate tokens from the top of the stack and lay them next to each other. So we put them next to the map token. We check for a fork in the road. If the newly placed map tile has more than one new doorway, in other words, if there is more than one new path, or if it's only one new doorway, we know that it's only one in the 4A example, because otherwise we'll have to make a split for the fork in the road. Because in upcoming map tiles, for example, in mission 1, the 3A and 6A, we do have multiple doorways, and in these instances we split both map tokens and fate tokens, maintaining a 1 map token to 3 fate ratio, tokens ratio, and we place the new pairs of map and fate tokens near the respective doors that we're going to see later on. For example, one of those, if we enter from here, we're going to split the fate tokens and the map tokens on a 1 to 3 ratio, as I mentioned. And the next thing that we do during the drawing phase is we place doors. Now we look at the fate tokens we placed next to the map token, and we're going to see how to position the doors. Also, just a reminder for this walkthrough that it's included in the quick play guide. It instructs us to preset the initial 3 tokens so that it has the map tile number 4, then monster token number 2. So instead of 4, instead of monster token 3, it would be monster token number 2. So that means this one. So 4 would be the first one again, but the 3 fate tokens that we would have drawn would be a treasure token, it would be monster token 2, and it would be a door token. So just to align with the quick guide, this is what we would have drawn. This door would have been immediately set up here as indicated. This is a treasure that we're going to get at the end. And for the monster group token, the monster 2 group, according to the mission guide, this would have been guard, dog and Bennett lucky. That means instead of those two, we would have spawned at 4 and 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2 here, the guard dog, and at 6, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 2, 3, 4, 5 here, Bennett lucky over there. So this would have been essentially, according to the quick guide, the quick play guide, the setup. And so I'm just realigning with what is included in the quick guide, and the reason for that is simply just to to be able to go through the example as intended for training purposes. So going back there, the master group would have spawned here, there and there, and we would have found a door to include at the doorway. Again, if we didn't had any door found, that means that we would have continued exploring in one more room, and then we would have added doors respectively. So for the step 4 of drawing phase, which is place doors, you look at the fate tokens you placed next to the map, and then you see a door, then you place it next on a plastic base next to the doorway, since we drew a door token, and then we continue with the playthrough. But keep in mind that if we hadn't drawn a door, that means that we would have continued exploring in one more door, which is actually the rule if we don't find any less door tokens in the fate tokens than doorways. But respectively, if you draw more door tokens in your fate tokens than they are doorways, then you have found a hidden room, and depending on the scenario, it instructs you what to do with a hidden room, usually to place it on the side of the wall, and here you discover a hidden room, which tends to be a dead end, but where usually family members get to find something. Now, for the spawning phase, we resolve its fate tokens from left to right. What we did here is we took the monster 2, resolved it by spawning one guard dog and one Bennett lucky, as I shown you just now. If it lands on an obstacle, like these red dotted squares, then you move it one space sideways, up or down or sideways, doesn't matter, because these are obstacles and you cannot have an enemy spawn on those red dots. There is a treasure token, which is resolved by placing it near the map tile, like that. And that means once the spawning phase or fighting phase is completed, you will then discard the treasure token and earn the reward as indicated on the mission guide. Then you prepare monsters by placing monster cards for the monsters in the order which they were spawned. So you place first the guard dog monster card to the left, and then the Bennett lucky monster card to the right. A word about monster cards now. So I'm just going to pick up this monster card here and move those target tokens. So you need to leave room around those, because essentially you can have up to 6 groups of one specific type of enemy, and one slot for this would be just above here. So group 1 would be here. If you have another group of guard dogs somewhere else spawn, then they would be in this upper half right part. Group 3 would be here, group 4 would be here, group 5 would be here, and group 6 would be here. That means that you can imagine that you have something like that. And then in each respective area, you have to place the health tokens, the target, and you draw a card. If it is a bestial card from the bestial deck, if it is a humanish card, a human enemy from the humanish deck. So in this case, we have one group, okay, of guard dog. and you can see that by applying stickers on the standee. So this is card dog 1. If you had the second one, second group, the respective features, health points and card, weapon card, beastly weapon card, and target token would be here, the third would be here, fourth would be here, etc. So for this one, it was spawned there, and we can assume that this slot 1 is reflecting this miniature here. If you had the second one, the slot 2 would reflect the second one, whatever it is, etc. Now for this one, what we do is we have to assign the health points. You can see, I will explain the anatomy in a bit, but you can see that it has 4 health points. That means I will take from this hit point 4, 1, 2, 3, and one more 4. This health point, hit point, health point, anyway, health point I would say. So 4 health points, and they're going to be placed on the upper part of the card. Then I'm going to draw a beastly card from this deck. This deck shows specific cards for monsters that they fall under the beastly group. So let's draw the first one. This is base master weapon, breath mint. Eye-watering stank breath. It's beastly, it's a weapon, it provides an additional green die to this monster group. So you can see that this is the group, and respectively for these guys over there, they will have as a target, randomly drawn from the bag, John, as you can see here. So the target, the hit points, and the weapon they have. If you had, again, I said, more guard dogs, then they will be spawned here, the third group here, fourth group, fifth and sixth. Now for Bennett Lucky, we do the same. It has 6 hit points. As you can see, that means that they start with 5 plus 1, 6, and then for them, we don't draw from the beastly card, we draw from the humanish card as indicated there. Their weapon is Hillybilly Nunchucks, which is a weapon, a melee weapon that provides a light blue die, because 2 table legs are better than 1. And it gives, if they roll the diamond, they disarm you, which is bad. And for them, for the Bennett Lucky, the target would be again John. So they're both heading towards here, which is a bad thing for us, because we need make sure to protect here. So this is how these cards work. So I'm going to move them up here to make it more easy. And they provide 2 trophies. Again, I don't need to have everything squeezed like that. I'm just doing it for the purpose of the video. I'm going to normally have space around the monster cards for the various groups and cards to be easily placed. But in general, master cards represent a master group. You can have 1 to 6 masters of the same monster type, and each master of a master group indicated by the number of its base is represented by clockwise around the master card, as I said, beginning with the position 1 at the top of the monster and going clockwise. You place the appropriate health point and respective card for the spawn monster. You have the health points. Each monster will have the specific health point based on the monster card. And you have the specific card drawn from the either humanish or beastly deck respectively. Let's make a bit more space here for our monsters. And now we move into the fighting phase. Finally, there is fighting the monsters. The fighting phase occurs over rounds and activations. A round sees each family member and monster take an activation, and each round begins with a family member of player's choice performing an activation. Then all monsters in the group 1, in this case it's just a guard group, a guard dog for example, then a second family member, and then all monsters in monster group 2, in this case Bennett Lucky. And once each family member and monster have activated, the round is over. That means that since we have only 2 groups, after this, then we're going to have the remaining of the family members playing one after the other. And once each family member and monster have activated, the round is over. And oftentimes the mission guide will instruct the players to perform an end of round event. In this case, we've seen that for mission 1, the end of round is you roll a d6, and if you roll a 1, you have trembling. A random family member loses 1 hit point or 1 focus point respectively. So what about activations and actions? During a family member's activation, he or she may perform 2 actions, but never the same action twice unless stated by a weapon or a talent. On a monster's activation, it will attempt to attack the family member for which it owns his own or her target token respectively. In this case, they both target John. And they will move if necessary. So let's see the family member actions that we have. But they're not limited to those because more actions can be gained throughout the course of the game. But the basic actions that we have are these specific ones. First of all, we can have movement. You move. You gain movement points equal to the family member's speed. For example, John has 5, as I said, and Bill has 5. Evelyn has 6. Maddox has 4. So they can use this speed to move up to that many spaces, not necessarily to the full value. Another option is attack. If the family member is in attack range and has line of sight, they roll their attack dice, which is the base hit die, the weapon hit die, any light green bonus die they may have from this track, and the damage die. They do, depending if they're doing a melee, they roll their strength 2 die here for John, or the range, they do the accuracy 2 dark yellow die respectively. Or if another family member has different dice, they use those depending on the type of the attack. We're going to show an example for this. Then you can have also the talent. You can use a family member's talent by spending the appropriate cost as for example, as you can do in this case with the quick patch or the overprotective, but you need to spend, as you can see, focus points in order to activate those respectively. Another option is defensive stance. You advance the LG token up to 1 position, so this token up to 1 position, all the way here for example, on the track of their respective Finnish family members' dashboard. This can only be used as a second action, and this token is used on your next attack or lost at the end of your next activation. You can have respectively the defensive stance. When you move this token 1 step on the track, can only be used as a second action, and this token is used on your next defense roll or lost at the end of your next activation respectively, so you need to plan wisely. You cannot keep them indefinitely. You can have item actions. You can use an item in your family member's equipped item slot for its respective action, for example this one. And you can have also additional actions that include rearranging equipment and trading equipment. So let's see the steps of fighting. So let's say for the benefit of this example, we have Bill, who's going to move and attack. So let's activate Bill for this tutorial, and he's going to move all the way up to his speed, so 1, 2, getting next to the guard dog. Then we perform the fighting phase, performing a pre-fight phase action before the first round of fighting phase. You perform any of the following actions except from an attack action, an attack talent, or a move action. This free, let's say, action is only taken once during an entire fighting phase. And for the pre-fight action in this example, we will perform a defensive stance against action for the family member targeted by monsters, and an offensive stance for those who are not. So Bill is not targeted because both they target John, so he will prepare an offensive stance as a pre-phase fighting pre-fight phase action. So he's going to get one additional light green die when he attacks. Then round 1 begins. You activate a family member of your choice. Preferably in this tutorial we'll activate a family member with the light green bonus token in the first position, and we'll proceed with attacking. Now, depending on the type of weapon they have, they can do either and the person, they can either do melee attack or range attack. Bill here is equipped with a racket, so he's going to do a melee attack. So he's going to gather all his dice that he's going to roll. So he has one light green die from this, plus one dark green from the racket itself. And let's say, for example, that, sorry I was playing John, but let's say that he did a pre-fight phase like that, so he gains one additional light green die from this. And if he had additional dice adding, he's also doing a melee, so he's going to get a light orange for his strength of 3. Okay. And he could also have additional dice from his protective equipment. If he had something in the head, chest or feet or something else, that he would add, give him additional dice. Bill here, he's going to do a melee attack because he's adjacent to the monster, but if it was a range attack, the family member should be within line of sight and attack range of the monster. Range is determined by the family member's range on his or her dashboard, as you can see here. We don't need to check for range because he's doing a melee attack and he's adjacent to the monster. You can have a blindside bonus. A family member gets a blindside bonus by attacking monster directly from behind. So this temporarily increases this family member's strength or accuracy by 1. So for example, if he was attacking this monster, okay, he cannot go on the couch, but let's say it was like that. So facing is important. So if he's exactly behind the back of this monster, so he has the blindside bonus. He could increase his strength or accuracy, in this case strength, because he's actually doing a melee attack from the light orange, he has a strength of 3, to the dark orange, which is a dice. Instead of this one, he would go to that one with better stats, as it can see in the rulebook. So keep always in mind for the blind side bonus, it pays off to attack monsters directly from behind. So in this example, I would do a pre-fighting phase, increase this one, and with my first action I would move here, and with my second action I would attack this monster, the guard dog. I would gather again all my die, all my dice as indicated by my dashboard, the dice that my weapon provides, and additional dice from my talents, etc., or whatever. And I would also add here, if it doesn't make sense to save this die, not expend it, because you lose it if you don't use it on your next attack, as we said, action, so I need to use it now. And then I would also add my strength 3 light orange die, because this provides the damage that is going to be flinted. So at any point, if you want to see what you need to gather in your pool to attack, you take your base die, LG if you're attacking, your strength or accuracy for melee or range respectively, any boost die, light green die from this track, and the die provided from the weapon you're using, in this case a racket, so a dark green. So I would use all this and I would roll. Respectively, the monster will also get from his card, when defending, he's attacking with a light, the guard dogs are attacking with a light blue and a yellow, light yellow die, but for defense they're using a teal, so they're only using this one. They also have a weapon. Sometimes the weapon can provide defensive die. This is an attack die, so they're not attacking, so they're not rolling the green die. So in this case, I would roll this versus that. Now, it is important to understand how these dice work. So, first of all, what you're doing is you're trying to gather those type of results, which are the hits, to calculate the hit success. So for an attack to be successful, meaning damage is calculated, hit success must meet or exceed the defending character's agility. Their agility is 1, so I need at least 1 or more for the success for the attack to be successful. I can either get it by this one, or in this case, since I had half a success and half a success, that would make another success. But a half a success on its own, it doesn't provide anything. So also you can have additionally effects from the diamonds that they are activated. So for example, the racket with 1 diamond, it makes a stumble 1, or it can with 2 diamonds it can make a disarmed 1, so I can disarm the dog. Or they can have additional effects that are explained in the rulebook, but these are really useful as well. Then you calculate the physical damage, indicates the damage inflicted from a successful attack added to any passive damage and or weapon effect. So in this case it's a 3. And then you calculate the results from the defense. This is an evade. You subtract 1 hit success from the attack. That means that this would be subtracted. That means I have no hit success, so I cannot inflict any damage. So let's say, for the benefit of example, I had 2 like that. This defense die will cancel 1 success, so I still have 1 success, and I can still meet the agility of the enemy, which is 1, and that means that my attack is considered successful. You can also have, instead of that, a shield, which subtracts 1 damage from the attack, in this case 3. You also could have retarget. You draw a new target token for the monster from the pool, so it changes target. Or you can have blanks, or you can have a 1/4 defense, which combined with some weapons and some protective gear can give you the rest of the 3 second, 2/4, 3/4 and 4/4, so you can make up to 1 shield if it's rolled. So it is important to see the results, and in this case, let's say I rolled like that, I had 1 evade, this one cancels 1 success, I still have 1 success, I still have same or more than the agility, which is 1, so my success is my attack is successful, and I inflict 3 damage, and I also do with this diamond special ability a stumble 1 to the guard dog. This is an example of an attack flow. In this case, I will inflict 3 damage, so that means the guard dog will lose 3 health points after I do all the calculations. That means it's still alive, it still has 1 health point, so it will be activated then, since it's the next one to be activated. The guard dog will activate, then another family member will activate, then group monster 2 Bennett will activate, and so on. When the dog activates, or a monster for that matter, it will attempt to attack the family member for which it owns his or her target token. So in this case, now that it's the guard's dog turn to activate, they will try to attack John respectively. The monster will move to become within range of the family member. If the guard dog cannot reach its target, it will attack a family member on the way while moving as close to its target as possible. It will perform an attack action with the guard dog, and it will use the weapon with any additional. So they will attack with the same way. They will gather their attack die, light blue and light yellow, plus the green, and they will attack with any abilities also they have, and they will attack with the same way against a family member, so the same principles apply. They will move first of all according to their speed. The dog has a speed of 6, so that means that they can move enrich, John, respectively, and attack here. Something else important about movement, which applies also for family members. If you cut a corner from an enemy or from an obstacle, like that, then it counts as 2 movement points. But if there is no monster here, or if there was no obstacle, cutting a corner diagonally, you're not cutting corners, so it counts as 1 movement point. And you have to consider this from your speed for moving purposes. Now, once the monsters move, they will attack with the same sequence like we did. And if the monster weapon is melee, it will perform a melee attack. If the weapon's monster is ranged with a pistol, it will perform a ranged attack. You will roll the family member's defense die, and if a family member has any T bonus, like this one, you will apply it similarly to gain an additional TL defense die. So, this is the sequence. As I mentioned, first we activate a family member, then the group 1 monsters activate, then another family member, then the group 2 monsters, if applicable, activate, then another family member, then the group 3 monsters, if applicable, then another family member, and then we perform the end of round event as indicated on the mission guide. In this case, we roll a d6 and we see if we roll the 1 for trembling, where a random family member loses a hit point or a focus point. We repeat those steps until the monsters are defeated, and when the monster is defeated, we remove its standee from the map and place it on the family member's dashboard to indicate that they are the ones who took it out. We move the light green die 1 up on the track, and the family member will gain extra experience. You calculate experience and Bennett bucks, and then you draw a card from the drop deck to see what loot the monster has dropped that you can take and equip immediately. Then you resolve the outstanding treasure tokens once all monsters are defeated by consulting what 5 provides from the mission guide, and then you begin with the exploring phase. Now, these are the basics of the game, but I want to show you the rules reference where you have, first of all the phases that I briefly described, so that I can give you a basic understanding of the game phases in detail. So you see the exploring phase, then you see the drawing phase, then you see what happens in the spawning phase with the door tokens and the monster tokens that we described. You can find various things like treasure tokens, trap tokens, surprise event tokens that you consult, of course, the mission guide to see what happens, ambush tokens, and vending machine tokens where you can buy things. Or story tokens, where you can visit the story to see what's going on there. Then there is a word about spawning that we described. I believe you understood how spawning works. Then we have the fighting phase. And then what's really important and useful is there is a very interesting and detailed section where you have anatomy of the different things. The anatomy of the boards, the anatomy of the cards, and the dice. So you see, this is the anatomy of the board. You can see all the things that we described briefly, very well detailed and documented in the rulebook, so you can see exactly what's what. Then you can see the monster cards, how they are broken down. They have, of course, their speed, their range, their attack die, their defense die, their agility, the hit points, the experience they provide, and the Bennett bucks. So in this case we killed, let's say, a guard dog, so we gained 2 experience that we can use to level up. Everything is explained here. Also the anatomy of the master weapon cards. In this case we had this breath mint range weapon, but you see how the cards work. They have the description, the ability, the type, if it is melee or ranged, and the die they provide, plus additional modifiers for the strength, for the damage. The same goes for the equipment cards. You see, you can have either melee weapons one-handed or melee weapons two-handed, and range weapons one-handed or range weapons two-handed. You can have additional details here, like if they need ammo, if they're projectile, if they have additional abilities that are activated with the diamond effect. This is a value, the number of Bennett bucks required to purchase the equipment or sell it for 1/3 of its value. This is, of course, the damage added to the physical damage dealt to the master. Okay, the dice they add to the pool for attacking. The collection here, the collection is important because the adventure begins with all basic equipment cards available to find, and other equipment collections are unlocked and added to their respective equipment decks, and if you have from the same collection things, they can get additional bonuses. You can also have protective clothing that provide additional shields for defense purposes, and here's the anatomy of those, like the police dog training suit or the sticky hazmat boots that they go below for the chest and feet respectively, so you level up with this equipment. You also have the anatomy of different cards. You have the ammo, that you need to have ammo if you have a ranged weapon. So you see, that's why I got ammo for the 2 family members equipped with ranged weapons, because otherwise they don't work. Then you can have accessories. Accessory cards are equipped on family members' dashboard and provide multiple additional benefits, like for example this pack of fruity gum that has additional boosts to regain focus points, or cinnamon gum to regain health hit points, etc. The anatomy is explained and the details are explained. Something important, the charge tokens that I showed you before, something important is the dice. You see, this is the hit die, the hit dice results. The worst is a light green, and these are the results. But you see how this improves if you get the green die, more abilities activated, and more chances to get hits, success hits. The same goes for light blue, which is even better, and the blue, which is the best. You see, it has a really better profile than the rest. The weapon effects are activated according to the abilities of the card used, etc. The damage die to calculate the amount of damage you do, and the worst is the light yellow all the way to dark orange, which is the better. You see how you have zeros here, but here you only have, you even have 4s, which are much better. The defense die, the brown is better than the tan, and the white is the worst. Actually, it has evade icon, so I'm not sure of this, because it removes 1 hit success. And these are the results on those as well explained. Then you have the fundamentals of the fighting phase, so the sequence explained, the attacking requirements. The line of sight is very easy to calculate here, and just to explain you briefly, in order to calculate line of sight, you need to be able to draw from one corner of the place where you are located to reach at least 2 corners of your target. That means that from here, if I want to make a range attack here, if from any corner I can draw 1, 2 lines, in this case I can, that means that this target is within range. A very simple line of sight way to calculate it, and I like it that it's not overcomplicated. Range combat and obstruct penalty. If a family member or monster performs a range attack but is adjacent to a non-friendly character, because it's preoccupied with defending or whatever, or has a line of sight that passes through a friendly character, then you add the wide defend die to the roll. And that's bad because they get additional opportunities to defend. The blind sight bonus that we explained, the abilities that you have from the weapons, the traps that they only, you can go over the traps, but they only set in motion once you stumble in there, essentially being pushed. The various conditions that you can see, either harmful or helpful, that I mentioned before. And elemental hazards that create possibilities for additional damage due to fire, sick, cold, or spirit. And then you have the simple, if you need to do any tests, test your strength, you need to meet or exceed your strength value when you're rolling a die to see if you can match it, for example. You have rare equipment, you have loot, you have different things. So anyway, and also you have the journal. The journal is something important because you manage to gather all your trophies and equipment collections that you gain through the course of the game, and you can use it to keep track of everything, your maximum hit points, your maximum FP points, and also level up and the experience you're gaining. So lots of different things, but not overcomplicated, I would say, just a matter of familiarizing yourself with all the details. Very, very straightforward but fun and I would say fresh and different dungeon crawling. Briefly again to go through the game phases, we have first the exploring phase. The exploring phase is the family searching for wards of terror property. During the explorer phase, you may initiate the drawing phase by positioning at least one family member adjacent to a door that has a map and fate tokens by it. So I'll need to locate doors and position at least one family member next to it to initiate the drawing phase. This is your chance to arrange the family strategically in case monsters lurk from behind the door. Perform an investigation, if you wish, by choosing a family member and removing a focus point from his or her family dashboard. Then you roll d6s equal to his or her maximum focus points, and every 6 rolled is a success. You check the investigation sections at the end of each mission guide to see what you have found, and each map tile may only be investigated once. During the exploring phase, you must not use any actions or movement points, just move the family members to their next destination. Keep all family members on the same map tile, and resolve any surprise event tokens before initiating the next drawing phase by moving all family members onto the map tile that owns the surprise event token. Of course, we refer to the surprise event section of the mission guide, and then we continue with the exploring phase. Then the second phase is a drawing phase. The drawing phase is players draw map tokens from this pile, which represents the rooms, challenges and rewards that they lie ahead. Unless stated otherwise, it always should be 3 fate tokens for every 1 map token. And the steps of the drawing phase are very simple. You remove the doors, the family members are currently adjacent to. You draw a map token and place a map tile. Draw a map token from the top of the stack next to the door. Place a respective map tile next to the doorway for which you are drawing. Orient the map tile in whichever way you choose unless instructed otherwise. And then you draw fate tokens. You draw 3 fate tokens from the stack, lay them in the order which they were drawn next to the map token. You check for fork in the road. If your newly placed map tile has more than one new doorway, in other words, if there is more than a new path, then you follow the fork in the road process, otherwise you skip this step. If you have a fork in the road, you split map tokens from the bottom of the stack of the map tokens, and you deal a map token face down next to each new doorway, alternating between the 2 doorways until all are distributed and create 2 new stacks of map tokens. You split fate tokens. You follow the same rules as splitting the map tokens, except you're placing 3 fate tokens for every 1 map token placed there, alternating between the new paths until all fate tokens are distributed. And fate tokens and map tokens are always share a 3-to-1 ratio, even when they are split into multiple paths. Then you place doors. You look at the drawn fate tokens next to the map token, and if you draw door tokens equal to the number of doorways on the new map tile, you place those doors on the doorways. If you have more door tokens than there are doorways on the new map tile, you place the doors on the doorways like normal, and you have found additionally a hidden room. You consult the mission guide for what happens with the hidden door and the hidden room. And if you found fewer room tokens that they are doorways on the new map tile, you place any doors that you already found on the doorways, and it's very possible to draw even 0 door tokens. The drawing phase will continue into 1 more room for doorways without a door, and you repeat those steps of the drawing phase for each doorway without a door, and then you place doors onto all doorways on this map, even if the door tokens were not drawn eventually. You move map and fate tokens. As the map grows, you make sure to move each stack of map and fate tokens next to the door they represent, and at the end of the drawing phase, all doorways should have doors. Some may have map and fate tokens, some may not. The doors with map and fate tokens may be further explored. The doors without map and fate tokens cannot be further explored, and they are considered walls for the purposes of moving further. Then you have the spawning phase. The spawning phase sees fate tokens resolve and monsters placed onto the map. This is compiled by resolving fate tokens first. You resolve each fate token from left to right, first drawn to last drawn. Door tokens. For door tokens, they do what they are supposed to do. You indicate a door that they will be placed in doorway in the map tile that for which they are drawn. You place a door token onto a plastic base, and this is now considered a door, and you place a door into a doorway of your choice in the map of the tile for which it was drawn. For monster tokens, they represent monsters, and you discard the token, you locate the appropriate monster studies as indicated in the monster section of the mission guide, you place each monster in a number base, and each monster in the group, and the monster group will have a different number base. You spawn the appropriate monster standees onto the map with the process that I have shown you. You orientate each monster to face towards the family. If there is ambiguity, you orientate the monster however you choose. After spawning all fate tokens, you prepare monsters with the process that we have seen. You could have also treasure tokens. You just place them next to the tile for which they were drawn. After fighting phase is complete and all monsters are defeated, you consult the mission guide to see what treasure you have discovered. Trap tokens the same. Rat trap tokens, you do damage 1 and bleed 1. Bear traps, they do damage 2 and cripple 1. Taser traps, they do damage 1 and stun 1. And spirit portals, they do spirit damage and stun 1. For the surprise events, what they do is they indicate something unexpected about to happen. You place a token next to the map for which it was drawn. You end the exploring phase with all family members on the map tile with the surprise event, and this must be done before you begin the next drawing phase, and you refer to the surprise event section of the mission guide to see what happens. You can also have ambush tokens or vending machine tokens that do different things, or even story tokens that progress the story. We've seen how the spawning works, and we have also seen briefly the sequence of the fighting phase. The bulk of the gameplay takes place during the fighting phase, for which we have rounds. And rounds during a round of fighting phase, what you do is you have each family member and monster perform an activation, and once each family member and monster have activated, the round is over. The mission guide will instruct players how to perform an end of round event, and for activations and rounds during a family member's activation, he or she may perform 2 actions but never the same action twice. On a monster's activation, it will attempt to attack its target. The family member whose target token the monster owns. The fighting phase has a very simple sequence. You perform a pre-fighting phase before the first round of the fighting phase. Each family member may perform 1 action except for an attack action, an attack talent, or a move action. Then you activate a family member of your choice, and you activate the monsters of your choice, group 1, specifically not of your choice, then family member 2, then active monster group 2 if applicable, active family member 3, active monster group 3 if applicable, active family member 4, and active monster group 4 if applicable. You perform the end of round event, and you repeat those steps until all monsters are defeated. Once defeated, you pick up a loot from the drop deck, you resolve any treasure tokens, you record experience and banner backs, and you begin the exploring phase. These are the sequences of all the phases. Just giving you some basic concepts of the basic principles of the things that are going on, but everything is really well documented and easy to follow. And the designer and the company is very helpful to answering any questions that you may have. So there you have it. This is the Ghosts Betwixt, a very new and fresh game with a different take on the light dungeon crawling game with lots of dice, lots of different fun, and nice story to unravel. Dungeon crawlers, and I have a ton of them, from Sword and Sorcery to Massive Darkness to Gloomhaven, to different things, you name it. I have them, if not all of them, most of them, and I really enjoy them because I like the genre a lot. I like diving into dungeons, trying to explore things, to fight monsters, to do different things, and level up, of course, your character with different experience, equipment, and a lot of different things. But for this game, what I really enjoy is a fresh take on the theme. Here it's a simple family that's diving instead of dungeon into the different rooms of this haunted house, this world of terror's attraction, you name it. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to equip themselves with, I would say, humoristic and normal things that they can use as weapons, from rackets and slingshots to, you know, custom water pistols, and I don't know, you name it. But they do damage, and they do prove themselves useful in fighting those monsters, either beastly or humanish, that they have the game throwing at them. The game has a very unique approach both to the theme and to the aesthetics and looks of the game, and I really like it for that because it's completely fresh and different. So it gives a very different feeling overall compared to the typical dungeon crawlers. So if you're like me, you had too many fantasy dungeon crawlers with more or less similar themes, with the maces, the barbarians, the wizards, the fighters, whatever, you name it, and now you want to see something different, I think this game really delivers that. It has also some very unique mechanisms. I really like the way that the map evolves and spreads, and as you explore it, because you take a pile of fate tokens, as the game calls them, and map tokens, and each time you just draw one map token to see which specific tile is going to go where on your path, which may fork and have branch on different directions. But those fate tokens that you have to get behind for the full mission, they're split and split and split, so you may have to follow different paths and go back to follow different paths, etc. again, in order to try to discover your objective. In the first mission, for example, you have to find the locked door which leads to the basement, so you can try to follow up on the story and try to find out what happened to your family member. So the story is unique, the art is different and fresh, the mechanisms are mechanics are really cool and appropriate for the theme and the game, and the overall game delivers, I think, a very nice and interesting experience. I'm really looking forward to play it more, to get more into the story, to progress the chapters and the missions, and see what's going on with the story and the backstory of Richie and the missing family member, of course, but also to enjoy all this fighting, this unique fighting of, I would say, humoristic but very genuine and fresh weapons, ammo, equipment, accessories, protective gear that you'll put yourself on in order to try to become the hero in this, let's say, family adventure that it's really unique and different. So very much enjoyed the game, I highly recommend it. This is the Ghosts Betwixt, a very unique and fresh take on the dungeon crawling genre.